Welcome, everybody, to Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we have had a heck of a week this week, and this will be a crazy month for the both of us. So I guess what we'll start out doing is talking about what our week was like. We had a bunch of local events, and you kind of started us off getting some street graphing done.
I did. I went completely blind into this. As I mentioned last week, I'm taking it old school in the sense I'm protecting spots. I'm doing the air quotes for people that, obviously can't see me. That's an old school marked out thing, which we will discuss at a later date in depth, where we would protect certain street spots because of, paranoia is probably the best way to, because it's probably not even all logical. But just
it is logical to some extent. I mean, if there's a spot on the street where you're confident someone will probably stop, and it's you and one or two other people, they'll stop. If it's 50 people who are crazy, then they won't stop. And that's really what you're protecting from.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, in 2024, there's very few, unless you have like flight information, there's very few. And even those are pretty blown up. It's hard to find any spots like that. Although this one kind of is like that.
This one almost is pretty much like that. I've only been selling it for 15 years, but
Yes, I finally listened. It only took 15 years. But yes, as Sean said, I started us off. So Saturday was an old school kind of day. I was in the trenches. I think at least it was like a 13-hour day, and I must have sent you like 350 text messages throughout, like just sharing all the experiences. Yeah, you had the by the minute updates. But who was on my radar for that day, for that first day, that Saturday, was actress Rashida Jones, actor John David Washington, his brother Malcolm Washington, who is a director, and Danielle Deadwyler, an actress. And then I capped off the evening with Liev Schreiber from Ray Donovan and Wolverine and all that good stuff. Were any of those names people you would have wanted, Sean? I know you had you were busy that day.
I was busy. Rashida Jones is cool, I guess. I mean, I did watch The Office. She was kind of, if I'm being totally honest, one of the weaker characters on The Office.
Agreed.
But I'm not a huge fan of her role on The Office. But look, if I was there in front of her, I would have gotten her. But that wasn't in the cards. So any interesting insight into the people you met?
Yeah. Well, how this works, it's like a sprawled out event. There's like various little like spots in a walkable distance. So the place that Rashida Jones was super simple. Like, honestly, I haven't done street graphing in quite a while, and it was like riding a bike. I stood there, I saw the car pull up, I approached her, she did it happily, I was on my way. And that was super easy. The following spot that I moved on to after that was a little more complicated because the Clintons were there, Hillary and Chelsea. And without getting political, I think we've seen on the news that there's been some target practice, let's just say, with certain political figures and certain campaign headquarters. So Secret Service was a little bit more serious. So there was no Clinton for me. I thought maybe I'd get Hillary or Chelsea, but zero chance there.
Because they both have a reputation for being pretty open to signing and taking photos and stuff, but it was from what you said, it was basically impossible.
Yeah, there was a presidential motorcade. People tried to go in the area where the motorcade was pulling up, which local police and event people really didn't care about. But Secret Service made it very clear from what I was told that they're not doing a thing. You can't be back here. And, they left. They didn't have much of a choice. The one name I saw that I didn't get, and Sean, I know you thought maybe I played it wrong, but I thought this was the only move. I'll set the stage. From Law & Order SVU, Mariska Hargitay was at this event. Now, I already met Mariska, as Sean and I have discussed before. We've done the Law & Order set a couple of times. So I didn't have a real urgency to get her. So as she pulls up, I noticed they had one guy on a Segway with a camera strapped to his body. There was another videographer to the side capturing the other angle. And they were filming this apparently impressive walk from the car. I really didn't think getting out of a car, even if you're Olivia Benson, was that impressive, but they felt it was. So they were creating this perfect shot and the angles. And I sensed that if I just ran into the shot like a lunatic trying to get a selfie, I would create a lot of enemies on the event staff. And I felt it wasn't worth doing that, for something I didn't really need. You said I probably should have done it. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, because the proof is in the pudding.
Well, yeah, I didn't anticipate she'd go out the back. But I do think there would have been, I think I would have created some enemies, and that could honestly still come back to haunt us if I had. Or I'm just being paranoid and nothing would have happened. But yeah, so that was a bust. Then it ended up the Washingtons, who I thought were going to come in one way, came in another way. I realized this because I saw the actress just walking down the street, and then she told the driver, you were supposed to drop me off over there. So I made a beeline over there. I started texting you. At that point, I was like almost on the brink of like being suicidal, right?
Yeah, it was ugly. I wasn't receiving those texts in real time because I was busy. So I see 800 notifications. I'm like, oh geez, here we go.
Yeah, because honestly, John David Washington was my main like attraction for that day. Black Klansman to me is one of the most interesting movies of the last 10 years. I absolutely love that movie. I could watch it again and again. So I wanted him. And I know they're both pretty nice. So it was like, I was really pissed. But when I got to the spot where I was supposed to be, I noticed the cars were still running. And here's a little trick of the trade. If you've been doing this as long as, as we have, I guess, or if you just have a workable brain, because I mean, it's not that complicated. If they're inside for a 3-hour event, the guys driving the SUVs are probably not going to leave them running for 3 hours. It wasn't 10 degrees. It wasn't 100 degrees. So you wouldn't really need AC or heat like that. So I figured, well, these cars are running for some purpose. So I waited around. Maybe 10 minutes later, the cars moved. I looked over. I saw them walking out of the door, and I approached them. And the way the spot was configured, like that, Sean, we've talked about the elephant in the room. That like when you're meeting people on the street, there is some inherent like creepiness, right? Like,
of course,
you agree? Yeah,
absolutely.
You feel. Unless you're a madman like Class 316, like I think you always feel a little self-conscious. You realize what you're doing looks a little like it's not common. What you're doing is not like everyone you're seeing in your vision is not doing what you're doing. You are the odd man out. So I approached them, and honestly, they couldn't have been nicer. I had 2 prints for John David, and he signed them both. He actually told me, he's like, oh, you got to get the director on this one, being his brother Malcolm. So I'm like, oh, of course, when I'm done with you, I'm going over to him. I went over to him, and Malcolm goes, when I asked him for a selfie, he's like, oh, brother, you don't even know. You already have one. So I checked my camera, and he's like, check the photo. So I zoom in on it, and he's in the back, like throwing up like hand signs and stuff, just, photobombing the selfie with John, which typically I hate photobombs, but considering it's his brother who's valid, is actually kind of cool. So I let that photobomb live, and he was cool. The actress was cool. I got all of that. And then I had nothing else to do. I had absolutely nothing else to do. I was debating if I would walk to a public bathroom, which is in a park by a softball field, or I had a ticket to the event. So I figured, let me go into the event. So I went into the event. I got lost leaving the bathroom. So I wandered around for about 5 minutes. Staff finally found me like all the way in like the bowels of the building, and then brought me to the screening. And it was actually a pretty good movie. I liked it. It was actually kind of like horror-y. I'm not very familiar with that playwright's work, so I really wasn't like aware of what was happening, but I liked it.
Well, that sounds like a fruitful day. So,
yeah.
And then what else do you have today?
I just closed off with Liev Schreiber. And if people do any NYC street graphing, they know Liev is kind of, for lack of a better word, and he's not always the easiest. So I was in the spot. I saw him pull up with his wife and son. Luckily, the son was like a grown son, so it wasn't that weird. I mean, it still kind of was, but it was less weird. And they like exit the car. And as I'm approaching, of course, so just to make it more painful, Liev like puts his arm around his wife. Like he has his arm like around her neck. So it's like, oh crap. Now I'm like interrupting this like tender family moment. But of course I did, because, we're not normal, and that's what we do.
Gotta get the combo.
I politely asked him for a selfie. He was surprisingly cool with it. He took the selfie. I tried for the autograph. He kind of like, there was a bit of a groan. I heard the groan. And I wouldn't say I begged, but I did definitely persuade. And I'm like, oh, please, sir, it's just one. And he sort of sighed this time. And he took the pen. And he's like, he's like, you're lucky to have this because I don't sign this stuff often. And he's right. When he's on Broadway, he's not hitting merch. He's a playbill guy, the occasional photo selfie if he's in a good mood. He's not signing merch. So, yeah, I got that done. And I was pretty happy with all the autographs I got. They were all in deco paint. There were no, like, dead black Sharpies or crappy silver Sharpies. I think they were all, like, convention quality graphs.
From what I saw, they're excellent.
Yeah. So that was good. And then day 2, you joined me. So you can,
Oh, yeah. So day 2 was honestly one of the coolest street graphing experiences I've ever had, for kind of a funny reason. So we started out we went to an event featuring famous director Barry Sonnenfeld, who gave a very, very hilarious presentation. I was laughing very loudly and embarrassingly during the whole time.
It was great.
It was really, 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 really good. And then they did this thing where he was selling books to his new book to get signed in the back, and we kind of gave each other the look like, are we gonna just try and get stuff signed for free, or do we want to buy the book? And I'm always a fan of the idea that if someone is worth it in some way, not even just financial. Well, if someone's financially worth it, I will definitely buy the book. But if someone gave me a good show or entertain me in some way where I feel like, you know what, I'm okay spending the $25, whatever it was, on the book.
Yeah.
And then so we did that.
Yeah.
And then he happily signed and whatever we had. And this is a classic marked out move. We made the executive decision to wait until the end, and what's actually kind of funny because we got on the back of the line, and then some dude got on the line behind us, and we could just see that he was also there to get other things done. So
I mean, he was dressed like Wild Thing from Major League, which it was like a full-on short set like baseball uniform. I don't even know where the hell he found it. But I saw. I'm like, oh, he's a grapher.
The graphers really stand out a mile away. So I got a Men in Black print done. You got a Men in Black print, and what else?
Addams Family.
Yeah. I don't like the Addams Family, honestly. But anyway, that doesn't matter. And he was happy doing them. And then the guy behind us whips out. He had to be 10 things, maybe more. Right? It was a huge number of items.
I think it was a press kit, which I guess you could argue it's one singular press kit, which is sort of one item, maybe one item.
Barry signed like 10 different things.
I know.
The table was covered with things he was signing. So
yeah, I said to you, I'm like, what was this? A private signing? Like that's what it looked like.
And so we did get at the end though. The move was we waited around. Well, okay. So here's what happened. We're sitting there watching the presentation. And I keep nudging Dana, and I'm like, the guy in front of us is somebody. I recognize him from somewhere, and I just couldn't place it. And as I'm looking, and I'm being weird about it, and I'm like, my anxiety is rising the entire time, and I don't want to like just abandon ship on this unknown person, but it's frustrating because I can't place the face. And then
plus, you only saw the back of his head, so I mean, it was kind of hard.
I know, but I was still bugging out.
Yeah.
And so at the very end of Barry Sonnenfeld's talk, he makes some kind of joke that he was talking about how he had when he was a director of photography or a cinematographer, he had a particular classic cinematographer who he was a major fan of. And for the life of me, I've been racking my brain all week trying to remember the guy's name, and I just can't. Basically, he said that guy complimented his cinematography on Raising Arizona, and his joke was that guy complimenting my camera work on Raising Arizona is like David Sedaris complimenting one of my jokes. And as soon as he said that, the light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, the guy in front of me is David Sedaris, famed author of Naked, of Meet Talk Pretty One Day. He's now pretty much, he does comedy shows all over the country. He was a radio host on NPR for a really long time, hosting their show This American Life. For me, I'm a huge fan of his work, and so I just kind of wigged out. I kind of went nuts a little bit. And so then because of the spot we were in, we're waiting for Barry, but at the same time, I'm trying to keep Sedaris in the corner of my eye, in my peripheral vision the whole time. And so I finally, we got Barry. But then we were kind of hanging around because Barry was sitting behind a table. So we got photos with Barry once he stood up. That's an old marked out trick. You wait until the end, and they'll always stand up, and then you can get a better photo.
Yep.
If this does not matter to you, it's because you're sane. To us, this matters. And then while we're hanging around while David Sedaris is yapping with what we soon realize is Barry Sonnenfeld's family. And so they're yapping the whole time. And so we're standing now. So we're standing around. Now it's getting a little bit weird because it's basically us, David Sedaris' family, and Barry Sonnenfeld's family, and everyone else is gone from the whole venue. So we're standing there. And finally, they say their goodbyes to each other. So, Dana, what I found out, the reason why they didn't go to lunch or anything is because David Sedaris that evening was actually performing at the Patchogue Theater.
Yes, he was.
So he ended up leaving the spot we were at and heading to Patchogue. That's why they didn't hang out or anything. But when they said their goodbyes, that's when I used my wiles to swoop in and land David Sedaris, who couldn't have been more delightful. And we had a few minutes of banter, which I quite enjoyed before we got our photos. And obviously, we didn't have any items to be. I have a stack of David Sedaris signed books from a book signing about 15 years ago. I think it was like 2010 or 2009. So yeah, about 15 years ago. And so I didn't really need any autographs. I have a ton, but I did not have the photo because Sedaris is normally pretty squirrely about photo ops. But in that setting, it's funny. He actually refused a selfie. He insisted on a posed photo, which I was more than happy.
That was funny.
Which was actually I don't mind that at all. That's fine for me. So
it's funny. I feel like every time you meet someone that you are just over the moon excited for like this, I have no clue who they are. I somehow I even like researching him. I've never seen one of his books that I've like acknowledged seeing it. I've never I've seen him, I guess, listed on like Patchwork Theater and other venues, but I didn't really know who he was or didn't look up who he was. I had no clue who he was. I still kind of don't. I see how many followers he has, so I appreciate the significance. Of course, I got a photo as well because I'm not normal, and I'll take any photo I can get. Yeah, but yeah, you were over the moon. And then what did we do after that, Sean?
So that was actually, it was funny because I had no idea Sedaris was even going to be there, and that was my highlight of the day. So after that, we were actually running late because of my Sedaris hijinks. So we ran over for Andrew Garfield, who, of Spider-Man fame. And as luck would have it, as we walked up, he was literally walking into the venue. And so I got a quick autograph. I have a poster of Spider-Man No Way Home that's already signed by Tom Holland. So we got Andrew Garfield on there. I probably could have gone for another one, but I was juggling items and it was very fast. And it was one of those things, you're in the moment. You got the photo op I did not get the photo op because again, I was juggling stuff. We were almost caught with our pants down because we were walking up as he was walking up and we didn't have a time to ready ourselves. It was a very much a little bit of a frantic thing. And there were probably a half dozen other people there trying to get him. And he obliged everyone who asked, I think.
Yeah. We got lucky because you were preparing the poster, which has to be done. You were wrapping it around the tube to use the tube sort of as like a hardened surface,
which actually worked very well.
It did. You have to create your tables in the wild, creatively. But as you were doing this, and you probably remember this, I remarked to you how I saw a fat, slovenly paparazzi, like awkwardly running down the street with his camera jiggling on his neck. And I said to you, I'm like, that pap is running for something. We got to go. And
yeah, I mean, never, if you're out on the street, and this is a pro tip from a pro, if you're out on the street, paparazzi are your best friend. Not necessarily, you don't want to talk to them necessarily, but observe their behavior because they always know where the celebrities are. They pay people for tips. So if you observe what they're doing and you follow them, more likely than not, you'll be successful.
Absolutely right. So we each if we combined, we have a full combo. I didn't get the autograph I would have liked. I may have had an opportunity, but I think I would have had to screw you over in the process. It would have been like me rushing him at the same point you were getting it. And I just obviously stayed back and let you get your thing done. We went inside the event and I thought it was okay. I hated it.
I was falling
You
asleep.
were doing your like seated snoring. You were out. You snored through about a third of it, and then you kind of came to towards the end.
That's what I do is listen. If I am bored, I go to sleep. I don't care what the circumstances are. That's what I do. I at this stage in my life, I am unapologetic about it. It was boring. I didn't think it was that. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I've gone to these talks before. Some of them have been absolutely riveting. This was not, in my opinion, that riveting.
No.
You know,
Liev's was slightly better. In part because Baldwin, I think, is a more interesting. Alec Baldwin was the host of the Schreiber one. Baldwin was a little bit more of an interesting host than the guy we had with Garfield. But, I mean, none of these things are amazing. I wouldn't just go for the sake of going. It's all for the hunt for combos.
I'm going to be honest. I thought that the interviewer was terrible. That probably significantly contributed to the whole thing.
Yeah. They spent like 10 minutes talking about both of them being 40. And like, that's just not that fascinating, but okay. I guess if that was the angle he wanted to take it, who am I to judge? But anyway, so tomorrow we're back at it. We're in the trenches again, back to back.
We are. Yeah, we're not gonna say who we're going for tomorrow. Yet we'll save that for next week because we'll see if we're successful or not.
I don't think we will be.
Dana is. I was just about to say Dana is much less enthusiastic or much less optimistic than I am about our successes. I think we'll be all right next week, tomorrow, not next week. But we'll see, and we will definitely report back. Next week is going to be honestly a crazy show. Because this week is probably one of the craziest weeks of the year for the hobby. But we'll get into that right after we break for our housekeeping. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com, our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And links to all these things and links to all our socials are on our Facebook posts about the shows and on Substack. So you can check us out in all those places. So yeah, this week is the biggest week of the year for us. I joke at my day job. I joke that this is my holiday of sorts. That this is what I wait for all year long. It is New York Comic Con week. What do you think?
It's crazy. It's a crazy week. This usually how I usually handle New York Comic Con. I will normally say I'm going to go 2 days. I'm going to go 3 days. I end up going 1 day. It's almost like it's without fail. I go 1 day. By the end of that day, I feel like I was hit by a bus, and I just say I'm done. This year, I probably have like I don't even want to know. We'll touch on how much we're spending later, but I have a small fortune spent on each day. So I will be there Friday and Saturday. I am a mere mortal in the presence of Sean, who is going. How many days are you going, Sean?
I am going, and for the past probably 10 years or so, I'm going all 4 days. I'm going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I actually have my little Post-it here in front of me that I'm fully booked all 4 days. Now, I must admit, this is the most booked I've ever been for a New York Comic Con. I've actually never prepaid for this much. I've never had this much to do. And in fact, given that they just announced more people yesterday or the day before, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with them because there's other things. This is, in my opinion, the most stacked lineup that NYCC has ever had, at least for me. And we're trying to figure out like the best way to talk about this show because this show is just so overwhelming. It's such a big part of the fandom, and there are so many people. Like there are people who know, like in my real life, for lack of a better word, who know that I'm in this hobby, who have no idea about what I do 95% of the time, but they know about Comic-Con. Some of them go to Comic-Con. People at work like ask me for tips on how to best navigate Comic-Con, and that's like how big this show is and how popular this show is now. This show draws over the course of the weekend I want to say something on the order of 120,000 people to New York City, which is an extraordinary number. It's one of the top 2 or 3 drawing cons in the world. Yeah. So, like, I was trying to, like, how do we break this down to this conversation? So, I guess the first part that's really important is either, well, I guess we'll start for a newbie and then for an expert. How do you approach a show like NYCC? I know, Dana, you and I have slightly different approaches to a show like this because, again, I'm going 4 days, you're going 2. Um, how do you when you're thinking about how you're planning your NYCC? How do you even start to approach it?
I feel like this year our approach is probably the most similar it's ever been. I know in years past you will typically get lost on the show floor. You have all these different booths you'll hit for raffles and giveaways and all this stuff, and I'm sure you'll have opportunities for that over the span of 4 days. For me personally, how I approach this show, I live and die by the paid photo ops, the paid autographs. I don't typically go too far away from that, like, bowels of the building where they have all the autographs and photo ops. So usually for me, I just buy my stuff. I figure out what the schedule is going to be, which you don't know ahead of time, which we'll discuss again when you're trying to plan everything. That's a little difficult. This is just crazy. I actually think this might be top 5 lineups all time. Period. I can't think even some of the powerhouse Steel Cities. This, to me at least, unless this just hits my fandom and your fandom so well that we're skewed and biased. To me, this is just like one of the all-time great lineup.
Yeah. So for me, look, it's very hard to really plan Comic-Con because you do have your guests who are announced well in advance. So, you have some of your big headliners like the guys from Shameless or the Starship Troopers, Denise Richards, Matt Smith. They were announced months and months in advance. But like Orlando Bloom and Andy Serkis, they were announced like a week or 2 ago, and that's it. And so it's very, very well after the shows have been sold out. So it's very, very hard to plan in advance a con like this when there's stuff being thrown at you, and there will be stuff that will be thrown at you the day up. I will never forget. A couple of years ago, I was and I'm still angry about this. Mikey Way from My Chemical Romance was appearing at a comic booth and signing, and I was able to get I was able to get a ticket to that signing, and I was looking for, but it was the next day, and I remember getting out of Comic-Con at 6:00, and so I had between 6 p.m. and the next morning to find an item from Mikey Way to sign for My Chemical Romance, and this was before they reunited. I couldn't find anything, and to this day I'm furious because I couldn't get an item in time, and he was never pre-announced. It was never
That's
a thing.
annoying.
I got the ticket only because I walked by a random booth with a little handwritten sign announcing it. And I honestly, I still, thinking about it, get enraged. That's the only word for it, because they do this crap all the time. Hell, I remember years. This is years back, but do you remember? I walked into Comic-Con one year and was walking around the show floor, and literally the first booth I walked up to, who was sitting at that booth? Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, not even announced in advance. And so I was literally the first person at that booth because he was announced. And so I got a quick photo with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. Remember that time when we were walking around and all of a sudden they announced Michael Buffer?
Yeah.
And so then we got Michael Buffer. That was never pre-announced either. This show is frustrating because you want to try and do everything. So one of the things you have to do psychologically is just sort of release yourself from the idea that you will get everything, because you just won't.
No,
you will miss things. And
you can't plan for the unannounced. You can't plan for the unplannable.
And you will experience things, and you will encounter things that you didn't know were coming. And you have to be somewhat agile, willing to be a little bit flexible with your planning, a little bit of time. And I remember last year you were kind of pissed because Exhibit got announced at the last minute, the rapper, and yes. you weren't attending that
annoying.
Day.
I'm still annoyed. And I think that night also Tom Hardy did some like graphic novel signing. And I know marked out original Josh. He pulled off the selfie. It wasn't easy. He really wasn't doing many selfies. But that
Yeah.
was something that like came up. Like I think it was announced that morning or something. It was like last minute. There was no planning for that.
I walked by that booth. It was absolute mayhem. It was carnage. If you want to, because he played Venom in that movie. So anyway,
Good reference.
yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was mayhem, and I looked at it from afar. I'm like, nope, not doing it. Not even going near it. So I would say you approach NYCC with some planning. I would make sure that when you're buying photo ops, so like this is something that Dana always gets more professional photo ops than I do. And so when you're buying photo ops, you can actually be a little bit more liberal with your spending because they will not really let you miss photo ops. And once you're in that photo op area, they'll let you jump lines if necessary. I know I have on Sunday, I have 2 photo ops scheduled for the same time. I'm not worried in the least that I'll get both of those. That's just how it goes. They will let you in. They will let.
I will say though, you have to be your own advocate. If you're just standing in line with 2 conflicting photo ops, if you're not yammering in the staff's ear, which one should I do first? I got both. How do I play this? What's the best way? They're not going to know, and they are not going to be able to help you. You have to be noisy. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
And something to think about at this show. So there's 2 levels of staff. There are volunteer staff and there are paid staff. And the way you can tell the difference is they actually wear different shirts. So you won't know in advance which one's which. But you'll see there are volunteers that usually the volunteer color is like yellow or orange or some pink or something hideous, and the paid staff will wear like a muted gray or a black shirt. It's really important to distinguish between those because the volunteer staff has absolutely no power at all. So yelling at them, complaining at them, it's saying, "Well, that guy told me," it carries absolutely no weight because that person has no authority. They're I actually feel bad for the volunteers at these shows because their labor is exploited. They're taken advantage of. They're given nothing of value for doing these shows. They're made to think they're given some BS of value. They're given nothing. It's really an absolute scam that these people are working for these shows. It should be illegal. But that's an argument for another day.
Yeah.
But the paid staffers, on the other hand, can make things happen. And if you say to the paid staffer, like, who's your crew chief or who's your crew leader, those are the people who are in charge of different segments of the staff. That's how you get things done if you need to get things done. And so it's about knowing who to ask. So like in the photo op area, the bottom line is the con people don't really run the photo op area. The photo op area is run by Epic Photo Ops. And Epic Photo Ops people are dressed in Epic Photo Ops shirts. And so if you're in that area and you have things conflicted, you have to speak to one of the Epic Photo Ops people. They are the ones who can help you out.
Yeah, and honestly, in my experience, they're pretty helpful. Are they perfect? Have they had technology issues that have made lines just awful that you're waiting an extra hour for a print? Few and far between, but it's happened. By and large, they run a good booth. They're helpful. There's only been a handful of times I've actually had to go to the booth and get a refund, which that's another little pro tip that I don't think everyone knows. If you have a conflicting photo op and somehow you miss it, they will refund you. They may keep your like $10 service fee, but you will get the brunt of the money back. And
if you miss something because of their fault, then you demand the whole thing back. But
which is not that hard to spin it that it was their fault. Even if
you screw up, the point is, even if you screw up, you can still kind of force a refund.
Yep.
I think so anyway, here's the thing. We are at this show mostly for autographs and photo ops. I fully understand that many people go to this show for other reasons. There are people who go there just for what are called the convention exclusives. Those are the items that are sold at this show that can't be purchased anywhere else. Years ago, I used to buy convention exclusives, but the truth of the matter is these cons and these companies are very, very in tune with the fact that there are people going to these shows to flip these limited items. And so what that really means is the overwhelming majority of items that are portrayed as limited are not really limited. They make 10,000 of them or 15,000 of them. And for an item of limited, value, or I should say an item of limited demand, 10 or 15,000 of them in the wild, especially being sold to collectors who will preserve them, means that you're not getting any value out of them. And so in the past, I've bought I bought convention exclusives that ended up becoming very valuable, and I've made big money on them. But I have like, let's face it, boxes of garbage that I brought home from these cons that are worth nothing. And the majority of things that you will buy that are sold as convention exclusives are garbage. And so this is a side note for anyone. I don't know if anyone's listening. There are a lot of booths at NYCC selling mystery boxes. Okay, I want to state this unequivocally. Any mystery box you buy on the floor of a convention, I don't care who you're buying it from, will contain garbage that you don't like. That's what they are.
Yes.
They're garbage vendors selling garbage. I don't care who gets pissed at that. That is a fact. They all contain garbage. They would not put it in the mystery box if it wasn't garbage. It's overpriced garbage. And I always feel bad because you always see like parents with their little kids at these shows and like, oh, here's a Super Mario mystery box. My kid likes Super Mario. He'll be happy. And they get it and it's just filled with garbage. And they're never really satisfied with it. And that's how it goes. So I don't care whether it's the autograph vendors, whether it's the t-shirt vendors, whether it's the stuffed animal vendors, the Funko Pop vendors, they're all the same. They are shoveling their unsold dead stock onto the floor in those mystery boxes. Do not buy them. And if you do, well, I told you so. Because then when you open it, you'll realize it's all junk. That's how it goes.
If you want to burn your money, just find me, give me the money and I'll make sure it gets burned. I promise.
Yeah, I mean that's a thing. What else should you do? There are a lot of opportunities to sign up for panels or the autograph signings that are attached to panels. I'm not gonna lie, those are almost impossible to get into these days. They were the signups occurred like while I was during work hours. I couldn't even do it. So I didn't even try. I did, and in years past, I was able to get into some cool ones, and there were some really cool ones on here. And like, there were ways to get into really cool, exclusive, free signings at these shows. It's almost impossible to do it these days. I don't even try. If you got in, God bless you. I'd love to see reports of it, what you got. What's funny is though, we know a lot of people attending these shows. I don't know anyone who gets into these freebies.
No,
and some of them I've actually wanted to get into. I've tried to get into. There's one with the Simpsons. With Matt Groening is doing one this year. He hasn't done one at NYCC in like 15 years, maybe more. And I really would have wanted that, but it's almost impossible to get. So if you get one, cool for you. But it's just never going to happen for me, I think.
And there was one other, I'm not sure if you noticed this, there was one other fairly limited, not a freebie, but a limited signing that popped up. Rapper, singer Kid Cudi. I'm not sure, are you familiar with Kid Cudi?
I am familiar with Kid Cudi. He did something last year, right?
Yeah, but this time I think it was a little different. He was added to, I think Thursday. I believe it was Thursday, because I didn't even consider it because I wasn't going to be there. And it was like, I think it was $90 for an autograph. And he was only signing for an hour or an hour and a half. It was a very, very small block after a panel, which typically signings after panels have always been free.
They have always been free.
That's a new thing. And Kid Cudi it sold so fast, it actually sold during like the VIP, like Metaverse pre-sale. And when the general on sale date came around, which was the next day, I think it pretty much, maybe they had a small amount held for general on sale. It didn't seem like they did. From what I was seeing and what I read, it was just sold out. So it sold out on pre-sale, and it stipulates no selfies. You can't pay for one. You can't take one for free. Allegedly, he's not looking up. He's not doing them. Can you maybe finagle one if you're at the table? Who knows? But it's not on the menu.
I mean, I think that's deranged. I understand why they do it. Because some of these guys, I shouldn't say some of these guys, the overwhelming majority of signers there so there's two kinds. Let's just get into it. There's two kinds of people who are signing at these shows. There's the people who are signing to make money on their signatures. They're paid very similar to any other con, like a Monster Mania or a Chiller Theater or a Fanatics or whatever. They're paid for their autograph. But then there are the people who are there to promote a product. And like, for example, Exhibit was there last year to promote this comic book, or Tom Morello 15 years ago was there to promote, or 10 years ago, whatever, was there to promote a comic book, or Michael Buffer was there to promote a video game, or and you'll see those people. Remember, what was her name? The Steven Tyler's daughter.
Liv
from Lord of the
Tyler?
Rings. Liv Tyler was there. Wasn't she last year promoting a book, a children's book? Was that 2 years ago?
I think that went over my head. Maybe it was the year I didn't go right after COVID. I don't
I
recall
don't know.
that.
Maybe I'm mistaken. I could have sworn it was it her or Evangeline Lilly?
Evangeline Lilly, I got her there. She did that stupid whatever that book was,
The
Squid
children's book. All right.
Wonkers or whatever. Yeah, I still have
Yeah,
that damn book.
Squidwick. I thought Liv
Something
Tyler did
like
something,
that.
but anyway, it doesn't matter. And so you have these people who are selling their books or their action figures or some other kind of thing that they're hawking, and they're just different roles. And so the people who are selling their autographs, the cast of Starship Troopers, for example, they are working full days doing photo ops, selling autographs, etc. For the people who are they're promoting items, the contract they've worked out and the appearance terms they've worked out are with whatever company is paying them to appear to promote their product. And so it's just a fundamentally different type of appearance with different types of rules. So Kid Cudi is definitely promoting some nonsense, whatever he's promoting, I don't know. And so he has just limited rules because he doesn't really care about the appearance. It's just different.
Exactly. And another one that's similar to that, Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC. Every single year, just about, he is at New York Comic Con. And as I was researching for this show and for my weekend to know what I have to do, I saw him again. And I said to you before we even went live, like, if I go buy a vinyl right now, what are my chances of getting it signed? And what did you tell me?
I told you I don't know. Because Daryl McDaniels, again, so he has a comic book. I'm not sure if it's his own publisher or it's an imprint. I'm not like too deep in the comics world anymore anyway. But so Daryl McDaniels, he appears there every year. And if you go up to his booth, he will only sign comics that are being sold at that table while he's at his booth. But, and there's a big but here, a lot of other vendors will contract him out to appear at other booths where he's signing for all kinds of different prices. So you'll see, like, it was a couple years ago. So a couple years ago, that company, $7 a pop, they contracted Daryl. So one of the days he was signing Funkos and other merchandise at their booth for a per item fee and taking photos for a per item fee. But the other days he was at his own booth and he wasn't selling. He's only signing comics and selling comics. So someone like that is very confusing because you're not really sure what the heck he's actually doing. So the answer to that question, will I be able to get something else signed, is who the hell knows what Daryl McDaniels is doing that weekend, because they haven't announced it, and you won't know until you get there. And that's just true.
So it's one of those things. Do I choose to buy and carry this vinyl with me both days I'm there on the hope that A, he does something, B, I find out he does something, and C, I'm able to do it with everything else I'm doing? Chances are I will end up not doing anything at all, because that's a lot of ifs and a lot of maybes, and I really don't feel like doing all that for an if or a maybe.
Yeah, so we haven't moved too far down our list of things to discuss.
No.
So you saved me a lot of money this year, and I'm thankful. So we both bought 4-day tickets, even though you're only going 2 days.
Yes.
But there is a method to this madness that you discovered.
You can get, as the esteemed educators that we are, you are able to get pro passes for teachers and librarians. So what that means is, if you are a teacher or a librarian, and funny enough, I am a teacher whose classroom is a library, so I'm kind of both, I guess, maybe. You fill out this little form, an application, where you put like your school information, your school email, references, which they're not going to call, and you have to sort of make a paragraph explaining how you attending New York Comic Con is going to enrich your students academically and culturally. And I made some spiel about how it was going to help them because they're low income and stuff. But I mean, the reality is it's going to help them that they'll have a sub for 2 days, and I'll be, spending the last paycheck at New York Comic Con helping them.
Yeah. So honestly, I think with the ticket price we paid was about half what the normal going rate is. Maybe a little more, about half. So that's not too bad.
I'll take it every year.
I will take it.
That's my
Absolutely.
new move.
Yeah. Hell. So if you are a public school teacher, or hell, maybe even a private school. I don't really know the details. They go shoot for that educator pass. And if you look at my badge, I'm looking at it right now as I sit here. It's a pro badge, which they give to like comic book artists and stuff like that. So I can just go around pretending to be a comic book artist, and no one would know the difference.
I mean, I do that every day anyway, so that would work.
So who are you getting? Who are your like top picks for this show?
God, let's.
Who are you not? Who are your top picks?
Here's the madness of the whole thing. I can't even like just pull up an email and see what I bought because Ira Nobler bought half of my photos. So it's all like I have to just like check. I have like 7 different things to check. Let me just run through it really quick. Josh Brolin, I am getting a photo op. John Boyega, I'm getting a photo op. Although I would like to get an autograph because he's actually like to me he's extremely cheap. He's under $100, which for one of the main guys and then like the new trilogy, I think that's pretty.
It was
cheap.
Under 100 for a flat.
Yeah, so I'm tempted to get a print, but I probably won't. Walton Goggin from the. You have no clue who the hell he is.
No, I do because he's in Fallout.
Oh yeah, you watched
on
Fallout.
Amazon,
okay.
Which I actually was gonna. Well, you do yours and I'll do mine because there's a whole drama behind it.
Walton Goggins, I pre-ordered back in August because I'm like, oh, he's Friday only. He's from the Shield. This is awesome. He's going to sell out. He didn't sell out. Sometimes the Friday only person will sell out, but he didn't. So I bought that way too soon. Orlando Bloom, as Sean said, was added maybe 10 days ago. I'm a huge Pirates of the Caribbean fan. And if you hear that sound you hear right now is Sean's eyes rolling. He is not a fan. And he routinely mocks me for my fandom.
I don't get Pirates of the Caribbean. I watch those movies and I can't follow what's happening. But anyway,
it's fun. It's fun. Trust me. I mean, I did stand on the soapbox of defending Richie Rich the other day. So I mean, don't take my word for it. Then now I'm getting Danny Elfman, which is an extremely expensive photo op for a guy who is not actually seen on camera at all. That's one of those moments where I question my sanity, but whatever. I'm doing the Shameless group photo because it's an awesome show. I need each of them individually, and I would argue they're probably the most iconic pair in the entire show. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's big. Mads Mikkelsen, I'm getting because he replaced Johnny Depp in the Fantastic Beasts series, even though I haven't seen the movies he was in yet, which is totally normal. He was also in Hannibal, which I haven't finished, but I need him because why wouldn't I need him? So I'm getting him. I'm doing the trio photo, House of the Dragon, and even though I already have Matt Smith, because this is actually kind of normal. I really like the show, and honestly, every time I get the cool little like group photo ops, I never really regret them because they're cool and they're not always easily replicatable. So I always enjoy those. I'm getting Kate Siegel from those horror shows on Netflix that I haven't watched. One day I will. Probably, maybe, probably not, but I'm getting it anyway because I'm insane. Autograph-wise, I'm getting Cameron Monaghan. I'm not getting the other dude from Shameless on my print, and you may judge me and change my mind right here. I'm trying to like make some sanity of what I'm doing, and I justified it as he's not pictured on the poster print I have signed by William H. Macy. So I think I could stick to just pictured cast. Fair, or am I grasping at straws?
The thing is, what season is that print from?
I honestly don't know.
Because
I'm not sure. I just printed a cool image for that Macy event. Mickey
was not a major character. He was a minor character for the first couple seasons, and then becomes a major character. So it's one of those things where he is one of the major characters of the show, and in fact, kind of takes the place of other major characters. So I mean, I understand the whole if he's not pictured, don't get him, but Mickey is Shameless for me.
Yeah, I think I have to check the episode, not the episode, the season that Prince is from. And then the last two on my list, the last two definites on my list, Billy West, who I was going to get at Rhode Island, and the part of Rhode Island he was in, like floor layout wise, was just a disaster. And I had too much stuff going on. And when I finally got up there, the line was capped and he left. So I didn't get him. I think I'll finally get a Funko signed and meet him this time. I also need to get, which this was added like a week ago, I need to get the Once Upon a Time. Notice I need. I really need this.
Of course.
But I need to get the Once Upon a Time group op with I think it was she was a Wicked Witch of the West.
She was, yeah.
And Robin Hood. The Robin Hood character I actually quite enjoyed. Her character was good, but she was in and out, and a lot of the seasons she was in weren't necessarily the greatest of the season. So, but I need that. That's pretty cool.
I was gonna say the problem is by the time, let's be honest, I like that show. By the time she was on the show was terrible. It lost its appeal. So she's actually an easy pass for me.
See, I'm even fighting the urge of starting a poster print because I could get Jennifer Morrison on it at Rhode Island, who I don't need, but I could need her. I could create a need, but I don't.
The issue is the main star of that show. Well, first of all, when they did the cast reboot of that show, that was a crime. That they should never. That was a big mistake. Which was what, season 6 or 5, I forget. But then they also what's her face, the queen. What's her name?
Lana Parrilla.
Lana Parrilla is, I believe, creation exclusive. So
maybe. I got her on the street, but yeah, that would complicate autographs for sure.
Yeah, she had been for years, so I would never even.
And Jennifer Goodwin does nothing inexplicably because honestly, her career is nowhere, and she has a couple of franchises that would, I think, sell at a con.
I mean,
she's,
you know what it is. Big Love is one of my favorite shows ever, but after Bill Paxton died, it just, I mean, it's very. Bill Paxton's one of my favorite. Might actually be my favorite actor ever, and so it's very hard still, even now. It's just gonna sound crazy, but watching Bill Paxton stuff still makes me sad because I'm such a huge Bill Paxton fan. And so I haven't revisited Big Love in a while, but I love that show.
And then to round out my list, I'm getting Paul Bettany because he's in Marvel, and I don't really like Marvel that much, but I have so many as it is. I gotta get everybody because again, I'm insane. All right, so Sean, now that I've just embarrassed myself, who are you getting?
So it's funny because you mentioned Billy West, and I'm like, oh damn, I forgot to actually mark Billy West down on my sheet. Because I was done with Billy West until my brother, for my birthday, bought me the apparently Nickelodeon released new Ren and Stimpy Funko Pops, and so now I have 2 unsigned ones in my house.
We have to remedy that. Keeps on giving.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'll do Billy West on one and Bob Camp on the other, because Bob Camp is always in Artist Alley at NYCC, and I always love seeing Bob Camp. Just a great guy, extraordinary talent. So I have those 2. I see those 2. Billy West is around all the time, and I see Bob Camp every year. I've seen Bob Camp every year for the past decade. What else I got? So I'll break mine down by day. So I have my Shameless dual photo op with Mickey and Ian. I have my Starship Troopers group photo op. So this is something that is just it's classic me and why I'm a ridiculous creature. So Starship Troopers is probably my second or third favorite movie. I love it beyond belief. I've seen it 100 times. I'll see it 100 more before I die. I just love it in every way. It's just so funny to me. And Denise Richards hasn't done any cons, and so I have a ton of cast signed stuff for Starship Troopers, and I've just been waiting for Denise Richards to get. And so when she so every time they have like a Starship Troopers reunion, I remember in the beginning it was like Jake Busey and Seth Gilliam and Casper Van Dien and who's one other one? Those were the old ones. And then recently Michael Ironside started doing cons, so they added him. So I already have like a group op with Dina Meyer, Casper, Michael Ironside. I have that already for Monster Mania, but I have to get the group op again because now Denise Richards is there. And you know what they're going to do in a couple of years? When they inevitably add Neil Patrick Harris to one of these shows, I'll have to get the damn group op all over again. Because I just love that movie so much. And honestly, Denise Richards outside of Starship Troopers doesn't really mean anything to me. That's the movie I know her from, and so having her individual photo op does nothing for me, but having her in a $300 group photo op for Starship Troopers does. So that's what I'm doing better. Yeah. I have a Denise Richards autograph because I need to get her on my Starship Troopers original poster. And I'm also going to get Kurt Fuller at his table, because Kurt Fuller was, I'm shocked you're not getting Kurt Fuller. Do you have him already?
He's from what? That wrestling movie, right?
Not that, right? He was from No Holds Barred.
I don't think I ever saw it.
That's the Hulk Hogan one.
I understand. I don't think I saw it though.
I mean, that's unfathomable to me. So, and he's in a bunch of other stuff too. Kurt Fuller, he's always a villain. No, he was He was the villain in other things that you definitely know. You're
Should I
gonna
look him up?
you're gonna be upset when I tell you what else he was the villain in, because you're gonna have to get him then.
I
What is
hope
his
not.
thing? Yeah, no, you will, absolutely. He was the villain in Ghostbusters 2. He was the villain in Running Man, the Arnold movie. What else has he been in? He was Zachariah in Supernatural.
Oh, you, I was on the ropes. I was standing up until you told me the Supernatural thing. Yeah.
What else was he in? I mean, he was in a lot of stuff. He was in the original Red Heat with Arnold. He made appearances for WWE to help promote No Holds Barred. So he was on like WWF Challenge and stuff like that. He was in, what else he was in that you would have seen?
Valid in the encyclopedia for the encyclopedia.
He might be valid in the encyclopedia. Yeah. I mean, he's just been in so many things. Trying to think, a lot of TV stuff. But movie. He was in that movie Pushing Tin with that was horrible, that movie. He was in the original Scary Movie as the sheriff.
Luckily, I'm not a scary movie guy. That I'm not a huge fan of the like parody horror.
He was in that movie The New Guy, which I think that movie is funny. What else?
Listen, I think you sold.
He was in Anger Management with Sandler. You know, you're a Sandler guy.
That's a good one. Yeah, he was in 8 episodes of Supernatural over a 10 year span.
Yes. Yeah, but he is a minor recurring character in that.
Yeah,
in that show.
All right, you sold me. I'll add him to my list.
So anyway, I'm doing it because I already have the Kurt Fuller autograph because I had sent in his poster to get during a private signing a couple of years ago to get done, because I never saw him do a con. So I'm so excited to actually meet Kurt Fuller, but I don't need his autograph. So and then on Friday I'm getting the Jay and Silent Bob dual photo op. I might be the only person on earth who doesn't have that, but I never paid for it. I never got it. I think there were a couple of shows they did that I either didn't go to or I had to cut that op because I'd already spent too much money.
You should have come with me to that event at the Secret Stash when I legit took a poster off the display shelf, bought it, and got it signed by everyone. It was a rack fest.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean. I to be perfectly honest, I'm not like a huge fan of the Kevin Smith movies. I was a big fan of Clerks, and I really liked Chasing Amy, but that's kind of it. And so I know that's like, and I'll tolerate Mallrats, but that's pretty much it. I was not a fan of any of the other movies. So
once upon a time, like $2,000 ago, I was contemplating like, oh, maybe I'll get Jay and Silent Bob on Funkos, because like Kevin sells them through his website, but he's like notoriously does like Sharpies. I think lately he may have been introduced to paint. But I thought once upon a time, ooh, maybe I'll do that. And now I don't have the time. I don't have the $150 burning a hole in my pocket that I care to do that. So I'm passing on those two.
Yeah, I mean, it's time. I got to do it. Honestly, I'm kind of, this is going to sound demented, but I'm kind of disappointed that Kevin Smith is kind of skinny now, because it's not the same vibe that it used to be.
He's got the Al Roker, Al Sharpton thing going on. He looks really, really weird skinny. It's not.
Yeah, I don't like it. But look, God bless him for his health.
He'll live longer. But I mean, the photo ops aren't as good. So it's a trade off.
Yeah, and so then I'm also on Friday. I'm budgeting out time to get my Mickey and Ian autograph. So I got, this is proving how demented I am, but I got a custom Shameless Funko Pop 2-set of Mickey and Ian, 2-pack of Mickey and Ian. I'm getting that signed by both of them as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. Then on Saturday, my Saturday is crazy. I only have 2 things booked because I know how long they'll take. So I have a Matt Smith autograph. I have the House of the Dragon Damon very limited edition Funko Pop, the NFT one. That cost me a small fortune, but I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm very curious what happens with him, because I paid for a quote, but then they took the option to buy quotes offline. And so I'm wondering if that means it's sold out or if they pulled it from availability.
I would like to say if they didn't refund you, because these these companies are they're usually very good about refunding when something's canceled. Like it's just an automatic process. So I would think he must have agreed to a certain number of quotes, and they've already been spoken for.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. So we're gonna find out. So I have it here. I also have my Orlando Bloom autograph, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of regretting buying that because it was very expensive. It was over $200, and I've seen Orlando Bloom's autograph, and it is not great. It's very sloppy. So, and I just hesitate to pay over $200 for something like that. But I already paid for it, so here we are. Let's go.
I'm still debating my poster. Do I get the poster done? I don't know. We'll see.
Here's the thing. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I watch the 3 extended Lord of the Rings movies probably once a year. So it's like a 12-hour commitment once a year. And so I have to do it. And it's something I have to do. Then on Sunday, go ahead.
No, go on.
So on Sunday, then I have my House of the Dragon trio photo because they have a couple other people on there. And I'm not gonna say I'm saving money because I'm not, but I like the group photos more than the individual. I have my Orlando Bloom photo op. I actually have to check what time that's scheduled for because I hope they scheduled it by now. It wasn't scheduled when I last checked. I also have a She's All That group photo because that movie is a guilty pleasure. I love Rachel Lee Cook. Freddie Prinze has a reputation for canceling. He's canceled this con like 4 times in the past 10 years.
Yes.
And so I'm looking forward to getting that group photo. I'm not getting autos for them just because it's too expensive. And more importantly, it's not even the money. I'm not going to have the time to wait in line. Yeah. And then I'm getting the Fabian Frankel. He's Sir Christian Cole on A House of the Dragon. Very excited about that. I love House of the Dragon. And I'm also getting the John Boyega photo op and autograph. So Sunday's going to be a little bit tight for me. I have to do Fabian Frankel and John Boyega autographs in between those ops. But those ops are all pretty early in the day, and I'll have some time. So I'm hoping I can squeeze it all in. So it's an extraordinarily busy con, and that's assuming like right now I'm like looking at this schedule here. I don't know when I'm actually going to be able to walk the con floor or do any of the things I like doing at this show.
That's why I said you are more in line with me this year because
probably Saturday. I'm not going to be if I'm only doing the Matt Smith auto and the Orlando Bloom auto. Like those will take a chunk of the day, but they will take the whole day, right? And it's Saturday, so I'll be able to do other things. And so I'm happy with the way I budgeted that out. But I have to find the time to see Billy West, which I
got a big question for you.
Yes.
How much are you spending?
Oh, I mean, I didn't tally it up, but we're north of 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to. Actually, I'm not really trying. I think I'd rather not know. It's in dribs and drabs and. Ira's got half of it, and he owed, we have, I think he owed me money from Fanatics Fest that we pushed to New York Comic Con. So honestly, I'm confused. I don't know what the hell I'm spending. I'm spending too much, definitely too much, but it's once a year. I could be doing heroin, I guess, which would probably be a lot cheaper, but I'm doing this.
That's a hell of a way of ducking that question, by the way.
So with all these people you're getting, is there anyone you're not getting? Is this like the entire lineup you're getting?
I mean, if you think about it, our lists don't cross over that much. So honestly, this is going to sound nuts, but John Boyega, I don't really love him from Star Wars. I absolutely love the movie Attack the Block. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's this really funny, like sci-fi comedy. It was made when he was a teenager, and it actually stars Jodie Whittaker, who's also at NYCC, but who became super famous through Doctor Who. Before she was famous, she was young too. The concept is more or less he's a part of a group of like troublemaking black teenagers. She is a white woman who is uncomfortable being around them. It's set in England. And they're in this neighborhood, and they encounter her in some kind of like mischievous way at the beginning of the movie, and then there's an alien invasion, and suddenly people are being killed by aliens, and she has to team up with these boys to overcome the aliens and escape from the aliens, and it's really funny and it's really fun, and like you could tell the two of them had star potential way back then, and so. they're doing a group op with them for Attack the Block, and so part of me wanted to get the group op with them, but I didn't because Jodie Whittaker is really expensive due to
Doctor Who,
Doctor Who, and I would really, really, really want an Attack the Block poster, and that would be sick. But at the same time, I know Jodie Whittaker's line is going to be mayhem, and I don't have the time in my schedule to book it out. So I made the executive decision to go Boyega only.
You know what you could do? You could get a Funko window done and have a custom Funko made after the fact.
I mean, she already had. What do you mean?
For Attack the Block.
Yeah, but he's the kid in street clothes. It's like there's nothing special about his character in any way.
It's not toyetic enough. Okay.
No, yeah, that
I was trying to get my revenge for Kurt Fuller. I wanted to add something to your tally, but
no, and I don't mind that first Star Wars movie. I enjoyed whatever the first one was. Oh my God, what's the first episode
Force
7?
Awakens.
Force Awakens. There you go.
Force Awakens.
Yeah,
the Force Awakens.
It is the Force Awakens. I don't mind that movie. The other ones were just stupid, but I enjoyed it. So I'll eat it. I'll deal.
Yep. So for who I'm passing, I just asked myself the question I just asked you. I'm passing on Andy Serkis and Elizabeth Olsen.
I am passing on both of them as well. Yeah.
Olsen, I got on the street, and I, for the life of me, can't remember who the hell I was with. I thought I was with you, but I wasn't. It was someone else. I don't know who. I was in Brooklyn on a residential street with Elizabeth Olsen and Dakota Fanning, and it was at a film set, and I don't know who I was with. So, but luckily that saves me like $300. This is where the insanity comes in. As of now, I'm passing, but I'm still wavering. Ella Purnell from Fallout, which I've never really watched, but it looks.
But she was also in Yellow Jackets,
which I never watched, but looks pretty good. I feel like she has potential to go on to do even more things that I probably won't watch, but will look pretty good. So I want to get her, but it's insane. But I probably will. I'll probably text Ira when I get off this podcast, ask Ira to split. Ira will say yes, because Ira would split the Holland Tunnel toll booth operator if you ask him. He's an easy split. So I might get her. And then here, brace yourself for this, Sean, and listeners. This is just insane. Last time, I think it was 2 Comic-Cons ago. Maybe it was last Comic-Con. I can't recall. But they had the show Outlander on Starz. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Well, guess what? Neither have I. But it was a trio photo op with the cast of that show. So I figured, hey, I'm probably going to watch this show. The star of the show seems very popular. He's going to do something else. Let me spend $300 on a group photo op, right? Isn't that like a sort of a normal thing to do?
Totally normal.
Yeah. So I did that. In the time since that photo op, how many episodes have I watched?
0. I'm guessing 0.
0, absolutely. I haven't watched any. I'm getting to it, though. It's on my list. Now they've added a second, like the supporting trio. They're not in every episode, but they're in a lot. It's not the main girl, but it's like the second to main girl and the other guys. That's another $300. I'm wrestling with the decision. Do I invest more money into this insane, like, preemptive, let me get the show before I need to get the show? Or do I abandon it? And if I abandon that insanity and save $300 now, am I making my initial $300 from years prior pointless? Did I just negate all the planning I did? I don't know.
That's at a level that that's beyond my level. I don't do stuff like that. I just don't. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. I don't buy from shows that I haven't seen. I don't get people I'm not a fan of. Actually, let me rephrase. I have gotten people I'm not a fan of if they're in some way like important to the culture.
Yeah, you don't just do it. And the funny thing is, one time that thinking worked out for me. I got Matt Smith on a split when he was Doctor Who only, and I never watched Doctor Who, and I don't even plan on watching Doctor Who. I was honest with myself. I got it simply because I said he will probably do something I'll kick myself for later. And he did. I love House of the Dragon, but of course I'm getting him again. So that initial time I got him was useless. So I can't even make sense of that. That was just a waste.
Didn't save a nickel. Not even a nickel.
Not a nickel. So even when I win, I lose. So
let's talk about some of the interesting. I mean, I think this episode is going to go long, and I'm okay with that. Let's talk about some of the interesting things that you see at Comic-Con guest-wise that you don't see at other cons. So, for example, you will see your typical low-tier con guests, and you'll even see some wrestlers at these cons. And it's always interesting for me. You know, you'll see. You know, Jake the Snake always appears. Demolition appears all the time. those kinds of wrestling con guests who are very, very, very common guests on the con scene. And you'll see them at smaller shows. At Comic-Con, they are also present, and they're usually considerably more expensive because, like, all right, I'm going to be honest, at a smaller show, a vendor table to bring in a wrestling guest will cost anywhere between $150 and $350 at a smaller show. At Comic-Con, a vendor table to bring in a wrestler is north of $2,000. I mean, $3,000 at this point. I haven't kept track. And so they charge more for these guests. So oftentimes you'll see guests like the Honky Tonk Man or Jake the Snake charging $80 and up for an autograph at NYCC, which frankly, for me, makes it an easy pass for those wrestlers. I guess the logic being there are so many like non-con going common fans who attend this show that they're more likely to say, "Oh my God, it's Jake the Snake," and just spend their money that way.
Yeah, I think there's definitely economic factors, like you said. I think the cost of the booth is part of it. Personally, I always lean more towards the side of the idea of, we've discussed this, wrestlers view vendors as marks. Wrestlers and vendors kind of view fans as marks, although I like to think you and I really don't, because like we've been so deep as collectors for so long. It's just, like we try to make money, but I don't think we really view our fans negatively. I know I don't. But at New York Comic Con and shows like that, I think the idea is, oh well, these guys, these actors are charging $300. So I mean, Rikishi at $80, that's in line, and people are going to see Rikishi. They've never seen him before. They're going to flip out, like you said, because oh my God, it's Rikishi, and they will pay their $150 combo.
And that's just how it is at this show. That's just how it is,
And I found, I want to make this clear, in large part because I have, that this is not you want to know, you were not involved in this. I was involved in this. I have, an investment in Zelafatu. So I think Zelafatu is absolutely a blue chip prospect. I've sold enough already that honestly, I'm fine in what I paid to get the stuff done. So I don't need to sell more, but I really want to. His price, he was added recently for a canceled Joe Hendry, which they didn't experience, which used to be Heroes Hideout. They have all these wrestling guests, and they never, unless I missed it, I want to throw that out there, I could have missed it. I didn't see an announcement that Joe Hendry canceled, but he is not on the main page of NYCC. He's also not on their pre-order page, so I assume he canceled. I'm not sure what the opposite of saying his name to make him disappear is, but I guess that happened. He's not going to be appearing. But Zelafatu is. And his pricing was, which I thought, again, as someone who has stock in him and I want people to see how valuable he is, he's $40 autograph, $40 selfie, $60 combo. A $60 combo for a professional wrestler who has not even stepped into a TNA ring, to me, is a little crazy. In the old days, or even, last year, you would get the unsigned hype and you would pay unsigned hype prices. That was half the fun of it. You get the guy before he gets big, and then when you see the price go up, you already have it. That was always my little game of like lottery ticket. If you have unsigned hype charging $60, I mean, that's not even unsigned hype. You're paying like, established pricing for someone who's unestablished.
Yeah,
how do you feel about that?
I think they're gonna fly. He's gonna bomb. No one's gonna know who he is. And that's just, look, if a vendor wants to pay Zelafatu $3,000 to sit at NYCC or $2,000 to sit at NYCC to lose money for them, and they want to spend $2,000 on a table, God bless, keep spending your money. I don't care, but it's wild to me that a guy like that who has not done a single thing in the business and is more or less a nobody is going to command a fee like that.
Yeah. And let me address
at a show like this, where you're okay, and you want to bring him into a wrestling con for people who are wrestling fans who will be like, oh my God, this guy's an up and comer, and want to get him for that reason. I understand that. Guy's not even on TV. The average person, the average little kid walking down the aisle, of NYCC is not going to know who he is. He's a stranger. Are they going to like point at him and think he's Solo Sikoa or something like that by mistake and get it? Like, what's the like what's the plan here exactly?
It's extremely inside baseball and just like very like super fan niche for a venue and a show that doesn't draw many wrestling super fans. You like typically the names that are booked are Jake the Snakes and Rikishi's, the ones that are even if they look run down and haggard, you still could see the banner and be like, oh, that's the guy from my childhood, and you're excited and you impulse buy and spend money on things you don't need. Zilla Fatu, like you said, I don't know who's going to know him. And let's also just address the news of late. He's burnt some bridges. GCW parted ways with him for various reasons. I honestly, at this point, I'm unsure of the stuff I know that's confidential and the stuff I know that's public. So I won't even get into the whys. I don't want to burn any people that told me things like confidentially. But yeah, I still think he's going to make it to WWE. I think he's a future world champion. I think he's all of those things. I just don't think he's at a place where he should be a $60 combo. And I think he's going to have a lot of time on his hands at New York Comic Con to check out the booth. You might actually see him looking at booths with you, Sean.
And look, I don't. Again, you want to spend. People are going to spend their money how they spend their money. I'm spending $2,000 frivolously next weekend. I am. That's not even a question.
Yeah. At least they have a chance of making money, I guess, even if it's microscopic. Our $2,000 is just gone. So who's the real idiot here?
I guess. It's one of those things that I think, if nothing else, will kill anyone else trying to book Zilla in the future because his expectations are going to be all out of whack.
Yeah. Listen, all I know without going into too many details, my investment was like a quarter of that, which we sort of touched on last week with Ray. I'm super comfortable with my buy-in. The actual buy-in of people booking him direct, I'm super happy not being involved in that. So good luck to anyone that wants to get Zilla. And if you're a fan, you got to decide if it's worth getting him now or you want to gamble and see if he gets signed and you get him at Fanatics Fest in the future.
It's I mean that's just how it's going to go. So, and he's not the only one. There are other people there who are being, the funny thing is we can't even speak to who they are because I remember last year walking around and I saw Alex Vincent was at a booth. He was not announced in advance, charging some exorbitant amount. I remember, Alex Vincent there was a period of time where he was at every con charging $10 a piece because he was so common. And now I think it was like $80 or $100 an autograph, which is just, and doing no business, So that really guy, who's that guy? Who's that guy? He's he calls himself the last student of Bruce Lee.
I have no idea.
He's like Timok or something like that. He's at every con. He's at every con. You probably look right past him because he's at every single one. But he will be. I'm sure he will be there. He will have dropped $2,000 on a table, and God only knows if he'll make it back. He's a hustler, so he'll probably do all right. But it's impossible to predict who will be at this show with any certainty because I just know there will be people who people show up and we will not be prepared for them, and then that'll make me mad. I get mad every year with this stuff.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. Just to while I have it on my screen, I just want to share just a very, very, very quick summary of things that maybe some of our listeners are not aware of. If you are a wrestling fan and you want to spend higher than usual prices on wrestling talent, as we said, Zilla Fatu, Mandy Sachs, Booker T, Rikishi, they will all be at the Experience booth. So if you're interested in that, they also have a bunch of voice actors that I'm not even going to bother reading, but if you're interested in voice actors, check that out. Marty Grabstein's the guy that jumps out at me. I've seen you interact with him. That guy's a hoot.
He is a hustler. He's the voice of the Courage the Cowardly Dog. And when he first started doing cons, he was easy, and he started hustling very, very quickly.
If you want more fairly priced wrestlers, I mean, Brian Myers, Maven, and Max Caster, they'll probably be around their usual price, I would think. Maybe $10 more. They'll be at their own booth for the major bendies. Sergeant Slaughter will be there in all his premium pricing glory. He has like 17 different prices.
Exorbitant, and then all of them exorbitant. I mean, I love Sarge, but I mean, it's actually nuts.
Yeah, and Sarge plays the quiet, he's a great guy. I absolutely love Sarge, but he acts like his agent plays a great heavy. He takes all the heat. Sarge just sits there. But I mean, I've been off camera, off public with them, and Sarge isn't a victim of someone taking advantage of making his business practices for him. he is all for what the prices are. As I guess he should be, because get your money, Sarge. And then the last thing I would recommend you guys check out is the $7 a pop booth. They are booth 1018, and they have a whole bunch of voice actors. Teen Titans Go people. They have they have Jim Cummings, who I spent a small fortune on many years ago. They have a lot of really cool voice actors. Luckily, none that I need. And the other thing that I would like to do, but it's just I have no time and I have no, more money to blow that I would want to spend it on this. The original voice of the X-Men cartoon from the 90s.
Hal Dodd, right?
There's a bunch of them there. And
Hal Dodd's the big one, yeah.
In hindsight, I wish I'd got a retro, or even the old one, the X-Men figures. I used to have all of them. I still do. I used to watch the show all the time. That's something I'd love to do, but it's I don't want to. You can spend $1,000 probably, $500-$600 easy going down that rabbit hole, and I'm not doing that this weekend. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So there's just dare I say an infinite number of people to get. It's you can go absolutely nuts. You can lose your house with the number of people that are available here. So do you have any we talked about a little bit about the kinds of strategies that we're going to have to employ to make it through this day. Do you have any game day strategies or ways that people can kind of pivot and take advantage of things the best?
I would recommend, and I don't always do this because I'm so busy, it's just hard to always be on top of things. Check out social media, try to save some phone battery to check the hashtags, to just be aware. Have friends, hopefully. I know we have a little network of people that we'll send tips to and vice versa if they stumble across, some random booth stuff that we could run over to. But yeah, it's a jungle out there. And if you have a lot to do, it's kind of hard to have time to pivot. How do you pivot when you're booked bell to bell?
So I have a pro tip actually. So when you pre-buy photo ops and autographs, especially the autographs, they give you a time. You can do let's say, because I'm looking at my thing. I have my John Boyega autograph set for Sunday. If I notice his line isn't that bad on Saturday, you can absolutely jump on and use it a different day. You're not locked in necessarily on that day. The same is, believe it or not, technically true for photo ops. You don't necessarily have to use it the day of. If you try and jump the line, if you try and be in group 1 when you're really in group 6, you might get yelled at. But they're actually much more flexible than people realize. So you can obviously use that to your advantage. And if you have an autograph that you bought, I have Denise Richards for Thursday. If Thursday is too crazy or I find something else to do and I want to go for her Friday instead, that's just not a problem. There's no big deal.
Yeah, so no transfers needed. It's just a valid barcode's a valid barcode.
Yeah, and so when I also recommend bring a couple of top loaders, 8x10 size top loaders for your photo op printouts, because you want to buy them at the show. The going rate is $5 for a single top loader, which is 5 times the price of what they should be. And so if you have any at home, bring a couple of those. Also, if you want to another strategy is to bring larger ones. Bring 11x14 or 11x17 size ones if you have them, because sometimes there are cool posters and prints that are given out, and you don't want to spend $20 on a top loader on the show floor. It's especially if you have them at home and you just didn't bring them. So bring those to the show, and they'll take care of you. They'll take care of them for you. And so that's a thing that is important. Always bring your own pens to autograph signings. We haven't talked about pens too much on this show, and it's funny because we are both pen fanatics. I
didn't used to be.
Deco Color, the Uchida brand who makes Deco Color, they have their own booth at NYCC where they sell decos on the floor of the show. Many of their most popular colors sell out pretty quickly, believe it or not. And so I recommend bringing your own pens, bring your own paint markers. When you get to the table, some celebrities will have an amazing selection, and others will have dead silver Sharpies and dead black Sharpies. And so it's important that if you're getting something signed, to bring your own stuff and take care of it. and make sure your pens are prepped properly.
Yep.
There's nothing like spending all this time and all this money, time especially, to get an autograph at one of these shows, and then lo and behold, your pen leaves you with an unsatisfying result. And so make sure that your stuff is prepped properly, and you'll be happier that day. Anything else about NYCC?
Just make sure when you're online downstairs, if one of the guardrails fall, I guess you're supposed to clap like an idiot. That's
absolutely supposed to clap. When the guardrails fall, you're supposed to clap. It's an NYCC tradition, one of mockery. If you're the kind of person who likes to cosplay, recognize that it gets very, very hot on the floor of the show. There's lots of sweaty bodies in there, and so you will suffer. And then if you suffer, your photo ops will look bad. So and it's also harder to carry stuff around. So try and be cognizant of that. Trying to think of anything else for this show.
I feel like we covered almost everything.
I think so too. And I think you have to be willing to be a little bit flexible. So if you have something planned, but something pops up and you think you want to do it more, jump in that line and do it. Also, if there's anything you're interested in, you have to show up close to an hour, depending on what it is. If it's a really popular thing, more than an hour early to start the line. So if, sometimes like a booth is giving out raffle tickets for a surprise signing, and they'll tell you, we're giving out the raffle tickets at noon. Start hovering around that table at 10:30 in the morning. I know that sounds very early, and I know they might yell at you and tell you to leave, but the truth of it is, if you don't do it, someone else will, and chances are that someone else is going to be me. And so if you don't want me stealing your spot in line for something free, then you gotta hover around, because one of the things that is true, and this is going to sound bad, I don't listen when the volunteers tell me to do something. I don't listen when you can't listen. When the vendors tell you to do something, you don't. If the security guards come up to you and tell you that you're standing in a place that's a fire hazard, then you have to move, because those are the code words that they're going to kick you out if you don't move. But if a vendor or a volunteer is giving you grief about something, your best strategy is to just ignore them, because they don't really have any authority, and it's very easy. And it's very easy to lose out. In the past, I will say this, in the past, I've lost out on opportunities because I was polite and other people aren't. And that's something that I am normally a very, very polite and considerate person, but at Comic-Con, I'm not. Because if you are a considerate, polite person, you will have things taken from you.
Yeah, the polite fan is steamrolled. You can't be polite. If it's between you and a baby for something you want, I mean, you got to Snitsky the baby. You got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely. So on that, I got our parting message for New York Comic-Con is don't be polite. So once again,
definitely wear deodorant. Do wear deodorant.
Oh, for the love of all, shower every day. Wear clean clothes. Wear deodorant. Be aware of the position of your body. Okay?
Yes.
People are so situationally unaware. They position their body that blocks other people from moving. There are people who position their body so they're touching other people. Like, it's one of the few times I will say something to someone if their body is situated in a way that is making me or someone else uncomfortable. And it happens all the time. Be situationally aware. Look around you. I know it's sometimes overwhelming that there's so many things to look at that you don't know what to look at first. Don't be a jerk. Really.
If your ass smells like, we will smell it, and we will make fun of you behind your back and to your face. So now, please wash your ass, please.
You're gonna make me bleep that now. All right. So again, we are prepared next week to do a big recap of this show. And honestly, if I am on like despairing next week, you'll know why.
Yes, his retirement speech is coming.
Every year after NYCC, I have a great time, but there are also things about it that I hate so much. I know, I forgot to mention this before, but like there's always the controversy every year over the Funko booth, because they release rare limited edition Funkos, but you have to like sign up online, and it's a whole process. And every year I try to get in, and I got in once ever, and my time slot was such that I missed all the good stuff anyway. So there's no point in even getting it. So if you are going to this show to try to make money, God bless you, but good luck. Go to have fun. Go to see cool things you can't see anywhere else. If booths are giving stuff away, take it. If booths are giving away tote bags, take them. And try to enjoy as much free. If some booths give away books or comics, take them. Take them, because even if you throw them out later, because that's there's still a lot of fun free stuff to be had at Comic-Con. And don't buy mystery boxes. Don't buy.
And if you're like me, take 20 lanyards from that lanyard box, because you will absolutely never use 19 of them, and they will just sit in a bin in your office.
Yeah, I have a nice healthy collection of lanyards from over the years. Well, they used to give you nice ones. Now they give you bad ones, but
I crap, you know.
So in any case, we expect to have a big report, a big long show next week, and the rest of this month is going to be crazy as well.
Yeah.
So if you like what you hear, and if you like anything that you hear from this show, please subscribe. Make sure to subscribe. Put us on that playlist on YouTube, or subscribe on Spotify. Hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, and then on any of those platforms, please leave a rating or please leave a review. It helps us with the algorithm. We've had a couple of reviews and a little bit of engagement lately, and that's actually helped in the algorithm for YouTube. So we're starting to get recommended to people in their YouTube streams, which is helpful for traffic.
Very important.
It's important. So if you like it, look, if you hate it, don't do anything. If you like the show, if you're listening to the show, a little bit of engagement goes a long way, and it takes you 5 seconds, but it does make a big difference. So we have a couple of things coming up in the next month or so. I don't think I was trying to remember if we talked about it. I don't think we did. Did we talk about the American Pie reunion set for
We didn't
for Rhode Island? So I mean, they're bringing it. It's a pretty sick reunion. I'm still hoping for the big two, but I mean, Eddie K. Thomas and Chris Klein do not do cons. So the fact that they're bringing them into RICC is super cool.
Plus, Sean William Scott hasn't done very many. So
he has done basically more or less nothing. And so those three being at Rhode Island is sick. That will get me to start some kind of American Pie project. So Rhode Island Comic-Con, we're definitely going to be there, and we got to actually price out hotels because we're going to be there more than one day.
Yeah.
Also, they just Monster Mania in Oaks, Pennsylvania, just added Alec Baldwin, kind of a huge guest for a show of that size. That gets us to Oaks as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be there for Alec Baldwin. I'll have far too many things for David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown. Right now, hopefully by next week we have some good news on this front. But as of right now, there is not going to be an Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis pro photo. And just connecting the dots, Monster Mania seems like they want to get it done. I mean, why wouldn't they? That's just an extra reason to sell admission tickets. Alec Baldwin's rep actually engaged with your comment, which it makes me feel like, Alec and him, unless they're really playing a mean game of poker, he seems to want to get it done. So I guess, you can kind of look at Miss Davis as perhaps the one slowing down the operations here and breaking up this group opportunity. And I don't ever get why there's a problem with that. I don't want to go deep into it, but I mean, take Alec's price, take Gina's price, add them together, pay the photo op company on top of that. Everyone's happy. To me, it makes too much sense.
But Gina Davis has been giving the con promoters a hard time since she started doing cons, right? She was responsible for that huge fiasco at 90s Con where she promised that she wouldn't have barriers between her and the fans, and then refused to come onto the show floor until they put up barriers. She's a pain in the neck. I'm not sure why, but they clearly they're willing to accommodate her despite her somewhat unreasonable requests.
Yeah.
And so I suspect this is another one of those things. Who knows? Maybe she doesn't want to appear in a photo with Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is certainly no stranger to controversy, so maybe that's the reason. I don't know. It could be anything. But yeah, I know that Gina Davis is quirky. That's a fun word to use, quirky. And I suspect that that's a source of what's going on here. I don't think it's about money.
I hope they fix it.
I agree. It would be great. Yeah, and so what else is we also have Chiller Theater coming up with some absolutely insane. I don't know how they're going to fit all the fans in the Chiller Theater Hotel. There's some crazy stuff happening at Chiller. Mickey Rourke.
That might be a show where the fire marshals really. We don't even need someone pulling fire alarms for that. That just might just be a disaster.
They just added Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy. These huge names. These names will draw big money.
Cusack is there.
John Cusack, there's a huge Chiller is a huge show, and it used to be a small show, and now it's a huge show. It's wild. Also, that weekend, I think I'm still trying to convince Dana to do it. I think I will win eventually.
Probably.
They're doing that The Boys convention. It's a creation show, and we have to do it just for the content for the podcast to talk about creation cons.
I mean, listen, I do want a prom photo with Homelander, so I guess I kind of have to go to creation.
So I still don't have a photo with Homelander. I didn't get them at because it was when they were doing them at NYCC that year. They were like masked and distant. I forget that noise. So I didn't get them. So I would love a photo with Homelander. So we're still looking forward to the creation doing that con for The Boys, and there are a couple other things this month sprinkled in between. There's just an absolute ton to do. So with that said, if you are shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com, our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. We do have a couple private signings coming up, and they are just about coming due. So Barbara Bain from Mission Impossible on television and Space 1999 on television, 93-year-old classic actress. All items and orders are due October 23rd. It's coming up real soon, 2 weeks away.
She's still kicking. Get the orders in.
Yeah, get them in. And Paul Heyman, ECW co-founder and WWE Hall of Famer. His items and orders are due November 7th.
It's flying. So, it's coming up so quick.
Yeah, once this is the season where every week just flies by because we're doing so much, and I really am looking forward. I am taking a positive attitude right now towards NYCC this weekend. I'm excited to come on here and not be a depressed lunatic after this show. So I'm hoping everything goes great. I know you don't predict that for me.
No, I don't think so.
I have a what you have a term for it when I was driving and when I get angry. What is the
scowl? The
scowl. I have the scowl on my face, which indicates my displeasure. And as
long as you don't try to kill a horse with your car like you did that time in Philadelphia, I think it'll be okay.
I mean, if by kill a horse, do you mean screaming when the horse just crossed the street?
I think you want to sideswipe one at one point.
But that Philly stuck in bumper to bumper traffic in Philly. It's sorry,
never fun.
It's never fun. So with that said, we will be back next week. And so for markedout.com, Marked Out Radio, and Marked Out Collectibles, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we'll see you at Comic-Con.